All right, hello, this is Adrian Singleton, and welcome again back to Beyond Lean Podcast, where we talk about things other than just the tools that you learn in terms of eliminating waste, but there are certain things and other whole components of lean that we talk about here. So today's topic of the moment is something that I believe that a lot of people, especially in our country, that we're dealing with today. And we see that there's wars that are taking place. There are different shifts in businesses. You hear about a lot of M&A that's taking place. That means mergers and acquisition. You see certain companies are selling off parts of the company. So there are a lot of decisions that are being taken, especially when you think about the top tier companies that make up majority of America. You think about the NASDAQ in terms of stocks and things are taking place. The shares are moving all over the place. Is it a great time to buy? Is it a great time not to buy? Is it a great time to sell? There are a lot of things that's taking place in our economy and in our business. But the biggest thing that we're seeing, that when companies shift, they decide to diversify a part of their business off, then layoffs happen. Majority of the Americans now that move around in a job, no matter how long you've been on a job, what we used to call job security back when I first started, I don't believe that's a word that we can really lean on no more. So my podcast today is laid off. Now what? I have been in a mode to where I've been in a great position. I've gained some great momentum within companies. I've hit all my KPIs. I've done all the right things. But then there's a shift in leadership. If you all think about any type of sports, anytime a new head coach comes in, what do you normally see happen when the head coach come in? He's going to bring in his team of people that have understood his system for so many years. And the people that are already there, they may be up on the cutting block. They may be in a position to lose their job, or they have the sense that it's time to move on and find something else. The same exact thing happens in the business sector. You have certain leaders that have been having a trail of people to follow them throughout their careers, and you have to understand that it's not anything personal. It's strictly business. Anytime business shift, it doesn't mean that you didn't operate at a higher level. It's just a business move, and it comes down to numbers and who are they going to keep and who are they going to release. And you have found yourself caught up in a time period to where you were laid off. Now, no one is, if I can say, immune to being laid off. Even myself with the years of experience, I've been laid off a few times. But some of the things I had to learn from the very first time that I was laid off to the second or third time that I was laid off and I got caught up in it, I learned some very important things of how to put yourself in position so that if it does come, you're not worried that when a shift happens, you're looking forward to it because now you know that this is a different opportunity to set yourself up for something that's so powerful, whether you recognize or not. History shows this, that if I move on to a different company every 2, 3, 4 years, then remember on the last podcast, I talked about this. Think about when you first was hired into a company. There was a set of skills that you had when you first was hired at the company, and your salary and the range that they brought you in was all built around the current experience you had before you entered the company. Now you're with a company for 3 or 4 years. You're around new people. You have more exposure around executives. Guess what's happening during this time? Your value is increasing because you're learning new skills and your years of experience are increasing. You're learning a new product. You're learning new processes. You're seeing different changes that you're a part of, especially as a lean practitioner. So what just happened to your value? It's almost like a house that sits on the market for so long. The longer that the house sits in any different area, and if the house is being kept up, someone's adding value to it, the value of that house goes up depending on the market. I can put that out there. So the value that you have before you enter the company, now after you've been with them for so long, it increases by a large margin. Say, for instance, you were stuck within a certain range. Your value outside of the company now is worth 60, 70% more in terms of getting a salary than it was before you entered the company. So when you receive that letter, you are expecting to have a meeting or one-on-one with your boss. You have all your notes built up. You plan out your week. You have your travel plan set. You have the last 30, 60, 90-day goals that they gave you to achieve. You got all of them circled off. And you enter into a Zoom call. You enter into a Teams call. You enter into a Google call. And it's not only your boss, but you have the HR manager that shows up. You have the deep feeling in your heart like, why is HR on the call? And you already know what it is. During these moments, your boss begins to proceed and say, I wish that we had better news for you, but the news we have for you now is that your role has been eliminated, or we had a massive layoff and your number was picked. And then at that point, you are stuck in your mindset. You don't know what to expect. You are thinking about your family. You just purchased a new home. You have a new child that was just birthed. Your kids just went off to college. All of these things hit your mind at the same exact time because that's the human side of you that kicks in. But I want to give you some encouragement. So I'm going to give you 5 things that you should not do immediately once you receive this information. Number 1, when I first received the information, I would be into a little level of frustration and I didn't want to hear any feedback. But sometimes the feedback, even when you don't feel well, can be very good for you to find out what are the gaps I had. Or was it simply because there was a business decision, or was there a performance gap that I need to know how to close the gap before I move on to my next level? But if it's just a business decision and the department that you're a part of, they are not performing at the high level, or the company decides that that's not a core performance or a core practice of their business no more, or core competency of their business no more, they just decided to sell a company off and to reduce the cost so they can just maybe squeeze that business into a different area. So it's not personal, it's just all business. So I want to give you again 5 things or the worst things you can do whenever you receive this information that you're being laid off. Number 1, making a move out of fear. Immediately, don't move out of fear. Even if you're in a position to where you may not have the 3 to 6 months of savings built up, never move out of fear. Because sometimes when you have fear, it makes you make very emotional decisions that you will regret in the long term. Number 2, don't take the first offer that they give you in terms of the severance. Never take their first offer. Always ask them to give you time to think over the severance package so you can really plan out your time in terms of what I need to do. Because believe it or not, just like you're being trained and taught how to counter offer an offer that you get, the same exact thing happens when they present a severance package to you. Most companies, they know that you may negotiate back and forth, and depending on a policy, they try to do well behind you because they know that it takes a while for you to find a job. And so some companies are really thinking about your family. They're thinking about your health. They're thinking about your well-being. Some companies don't, but you are ultimately the responsible person to look at the plan of what they're giving you, to understand the type of insurance you're going to have, to understand the type of severance you have. And when you look at that severance and look at how long it takes for you to find a job, sometimes it can be 4, 5, 6 months. Sometimes it can be 30 days before you land your next role. But take your time, look at the severance package. Figure out how you want to present this to your family. And then think about, is this really going to give me the time that I need to really land my next role? And sometimes you can come back with a counter offer with the severance package and find out you can get 10, 20, 30% more on your severance, because this is time for you to allow your emotions to calm down, take your feelings off, and think from a business perspective. How do I need to make sure that I can have enough funding to take care of my lifestyle so that I can find and land my next role? That's number 2. Number 3, don't make sure that you're not disappearing and not visible. These are the greatest times to where you need to be visible the most in terms of your expertise. Now you think about this, you have a chance to really study and read new books and make yourself visible on places like LinkedIn. Make yourself visible and get involved in certain places or platforms wherever your industry is at, so you can get involved to keep up what's taking place. Don't disappear and go into a hole of being stressed out. I know that's easy to do, but do not do that. Make yourself visible. Find out how to get into LinkedIn. Find out how to get a part of some of the platforms or some of the groups, and keep yourself involved. The next one is, don't start talking negatively about your company. It doesn't build a great sense of professionalism about yourself. No one looks at the person that's negative about a company, even if it could be true, in a positive situation. You'll hurt yourself in the long term. So be careful. Don't start talking negative about your company. Just think about this. It is business. Don't start talking negative about your boss. It's strictly business. But think about the positive side. Now you have a chance to do something that you really wanted to do because you know that you wanted to make more income for yourself and your family. Now you have the perfect opportunity to do it with a severance package in hand so that you can plan out the next 3 to 4, 5 months of your life before you jump into your next career phase. And then the next thing I want to say, this is one of the most important. Never undervalue or underestimate your value. If I made 100,000, don't start looking for jobs that I can take right now for 70,000. Now, I can give you some strategies behind doing this, but don't just undervalue yourself, because remember, you're already more valuable now to somebody else, because the company and your current salary, again, was based off of the experience you had before you entered into the company. If you're with them for 6 months to a year, 2 years, 3 years, remember, your value has just now increased. So if I used to make 100,000, don't just look for jobs that pay me 100,000. Look for jobs that pay me 150 to 200,000 that gives me bonus and possibly long-term incentive, because now I have so much more value. And the reason why I'm giving you this is, and I stated in the last bullet point, don't disappear because of this. Add value to yourself. Take some different courses, because as I am going in for new interviews, I want to be able to show that I just didn't sit still and drown in stress, but I stepped up and took the initiative to add more value to who I am, so that when I interview, my whole entire business acumen changes, my language change, I understand KPIs, I understand the business more, so that when they begin to even think about an offer to me, that my value has increased so much more than it was before I entered into the company. So now, let me give you 5 tips to prepare for your next role. This is super important. I've been in the work industry for 26 years, and maybe one move of my career did I take a lesser pay. But that lesser pay opened up a greater door for me to enter to be an executive, because I understood that it was about me keeping my skills sharpened, but I took advantage of this and went into a whole different industry. When I went into a whole different industry, I was with this company for maybe a year and a half to 2 years. It was lesser pay, but I looked at my past severance that I had, and then as I entered into the new company, the new salary I had, it allowed me not to pull away from my severance as past, even if I was taking on less salary. But I began to exercise a new skill set that I learned between the gap of me not having a job to the new job I entered. So I made sure that I prepared myself in this way. So number one, I had to reframe my narrative. I never used the word that I was laid off. The second thing I did, I know that a lot of people do this, but for myself, I never put the banner on my LinkedIn profile that says open to work. To me, I would never do that. I keep myself present on LinkedIn and keep the job open so that it seems and looks like I'm still working with the company, versus closing that job out and keeping a big open to network, a open to work profile banner on my face. It looks like I'm suffering, I'm looking for a job. That's just me. I never do that. So for one, I changed the narrative, and I never used the words that I was laid off. I used specifically this. My position was restructured, or the leadership had a transition, or there was a strategic change. I'm going to say it again. There was a leadership change. Majority of the layoffs that I've been a part of is because it was just a straight up leadership change. A new leader came in, he came with his team, business was business. I understood, I did not carry it emotionally. We had no history together, so it wasn't anything emotional for me to carry, because I know that I've always performed way higher than exceptional, never was average in no day of my career. Number two, I always state that there was a strategic change. Never use the word layoff, because a word layoff creates a negative connotation for yourself, not for anyone else, but for yourself. No one never wants to say I was laid off. It's a terrible word to use. There was a strategic change. There was a leadership transition, and things has changed at the top. So therefore, my job was eliminated, or my job was restructured. Those are better terms to use as you are moving through your next interviewing points, that they may ask you, well, why are you deciding to leave? You now have a new word to say more professionally. Well, I decided to exit the company now because my role was restructured, but my performance was always at the top. There was simple leadership change. The leader came in with his own team. We had no history together, so it was a business move. I understood. Or there was a restructure because the department I worked for, our company, was diversifying that part of the business. It wasn't making money. It wasn't profitable. And I was just a part of that team that was a long-range team that had been with the company for so many years, and now our products had become commoditized. Those are greater terms to use than just simply being laid off. Number two, clarify your next level. Not just your next job, but what is your next level? If you know that You have an opportunity. You've been looking for new roles. You've been looking at promotions inside your company. So what is the next level? Most companies will give you in your severance package a company that helps you with job placement. Majority of the companies that help you with job placement, they have very good structure. They help you for free because the company pays for this. They help you restructure your resume. If I know that I want to get to the next level, then these companies have excellent professionals to help you restructure your resume to match your next level. And not only will they help you restructure your resume, they have tons of trainings to help you close the gap of the things you may have had with your past experience. Depending on the next level you want to get to, they help prepare you for those roles. So make sure that you are very clear in terms of what is my next target role? What is the compensation range I want to be within? If I used to make $100,000, my next role I wanted to be 150 to 200,000. Then what are the qualifications or the value that I need to bring to the table to have these type of things? Number three, what's the industry or the platform that I want to be a part of? I may want to have a leverage to go into a whole different industry. This is the perfect opportunity to do so because these are something that you need to always be aware of the times. If I was in a business for 20 years, and I see this business is pretty cyclical, is it something else that's just taken off? For instance, now everyone is talking about AI and data centers. If you are in a layoff, why not try to get into those industries now? Because now that is a very good thing to have on your resume, to be at the beginning and the brink of AI with data centers. Those are some of the top things you need to think about of how do I position myself. The next thing is I want to be able to have exposure to the C-suite. If I know that I've been working diligent for 5 years, 10 years, then my next role, how do I get a role that's going to give me more exposure to the C-suite so that I can gain the right apprenticeship to move up to an executive role? Think about these things. Don't just move off frustration and stress and take the very first job that comes. Take some time to critically think about what is my next step. Even though I know I may feel lower my confidence that I was laid off. But how do I take full advantage of this? One of my greatest books I love to read, it says that the bad things, sometimes you think it was meant to be for your bad, but in the end, it really turns out to be for your good. I'm gonna say it again. Certain things in this great book that I love to read, it says that certain things, sometimes it seems like it was meant for my bad, but as I think through it, it was really meant for my good. Meaning that sometimes some layoffs push you into a new level of promotion that you never expected, but it's all in your thinking and following the tips that I gave you now. Number three, turn your experience into a measurable value. Think about this. Most people complain about being laid off, but how do you turn this into a story? For instance, I said, don't go unseen. It may be a time for you to post tips in terms of how to handle a layoff as I'm transitioning to my new role. It could turn to a wonderful podcast. It could turn to be something great that you can use, but make sure that you turn this into an experience that's measurable value. Remember this, as an executive, or if you are trying to become an executive, executives don't hire responsibilities, they hire results. Remember this, I'm gonna say it again. Executives don't hire responsibilities, they hire results. So start thinking about what are the results that I have gained and that I was responsible for doing, and learn how to talk to those results. Make sure those results are now showing up on my CV or my resume so that as I am positioning myself for the next role, then I can speak directly to my results and how did I make this job better so that I showcase my value. And some tips to think about. What was the cost that you saved, especially as a lean practitioner? What were the cost initiatives? How did I reduce lead time? And how did I monetize these things? What were the productivity savings? If I know that our cost was high, what did I do to reduce the cost over the year? What were the efficiency gains that I did as I was a lean practitioner inside of a company? So all of these things are not just as a lean practitioner, because what you'll find out, if you are just a person on the job that loves to solve problems, you'll find out that a lot of the tools that we use inside of continuous improvement, you are already doing them. You just don't have the same exact name, or there's no framework behind what you're doing. So think about these things. How do I turn my experience into a measurable value? Cost savings, productivity gains, revenue impact, and efficiency improvement. Number four, increase your visibility immediately. Don't just go into hiding. These are the perfect moments to be able to showcase your skill set. And don't just talk about the negative things, but talk about the valuable things that you've done within a company. These are the perfect opportunities for you to be on individual podcasts or to join panels or go to different conferences where you can start meeting different people and seeing people that's in the industry. And what you'll start to find out is there are a lot of people that are being laid off, but they are getting back in the system of networking and connecting with people to find out what are we doing to adjust ourselves? What's the next big wave for my career? Who are the people I need to connect that are looking for people of my skill set that were affected? Because believe it or not, when companies have big layoffs, public companies talk about it, but recruiters know that some good people were laid off. Everyone who's laid off are not bad employees. They just got caught up in different industries. So recruiters know, or headhunters know, that there are some good people that are out there looking to land a role. And if you are hidden and not visible, you can miss the greatest opportunity to really expand your career and get to a different level. So think about this. Silence kills opportunities. If you go in silence and nobody knows that you are still progressing to get to the next level, you're not connecting with the job placement companies that can help you update your resume for the next role. You're not thinking about your next role. When they ask you, what does your next role look like? You have no idea. But I want to warn you, silence, again, kills opportunities. So build your LinkedIn content. Become a thought leader. When it comes down to your job, become one of the experts in your job. Or we say become a tycoon in your job. So when they think about this particular industry, they bring your name up. Have conversations with past executives. You will find out that if you have conversation with past executives from the company that you're connected with, then they'll be willing to mentor you or help you just to figure out, okay, well, I saw that you did this in a role, but let me help you with the gaps to show you how I got here. Keep those relationships warm. Why is this? Because majority of the executives that you work with a company that you're with, some of them may have been affected by the layoff too, but they're looking for good people, especially people that they have some history with that's done great in some companies. So have conversation with executives, and also too on LinkedIn, connect with people that are executives that you're trying to get into the industry. You never know what conversation will happen in terms of helping you out. The next one is too as well, make sure that you're connecting with recruiters. I always make sure that I have 5 or 6 recruiters that I stay in contact with all year around. Just keep the relationship warm. Why is this? Because if you never have someone consistently looking out for you in terms of roles that can fit your background, when you are out the door and you receive a severance, it's too late because you're just not trying to get the ball rolling. But if I have recruiters that are already warm to my background, they're already peeking and seeing how the industry is changing. They're already having conversations with VP of HR or Chief Human Resource Officers. They already know what's taking place. So that if you're connected with them and you're seeing things starting to change inside your business, listen, everyone knows. All of us were born with innate abilities to know them when things are shifting within our business. We just try to ignore it, but I want to warn you, pay attention to that innate ability that you have inside when you notice things are shifting. When you see leaderships are changing, you see that the vision and the strategy that you all were going after starting to shift. Start thinking about these things. Sometimes when you start to see that the volumes that you used to have in your particular company, they're dropping. The business that we used to have is not coming no more. The people that we're seeing are starting to leave. The stocks, according to our business, starting to drop. Think about these things. Don't be surprised. Pay attention to the signs, but I always keep a warm relationship with recruiters that are specialized in my field so that if things shift, I can start having those conversations all year round. And quite frankly, to be honest with you, you should be communicating with them a few times a quarter, just checking with them in the industry to see if things are changing. And then sometimes they just like to talk to see where you're at in your career. So number 5, prepare like an executive, not a candidate. You're not trying to get hired. You're evaluating opportunities. So many people get involved and you're rushing, you allow stress, and you're just looking for any job. But at this time, put yourself in a mode of evaluating the great opportunities. This next role, I want to make sure that I have exposure. This next role, I want to make sure that it's in the industry that business is booming and we're guaranteed to increase our market share. We're guaranteed to increase our revenue. We're guaranteed to increase the business because this is the new big boom for our business and I want to be involved. So think about opportunities. Don't rush into the first opportunity you see because you are stressed out about finances. Think about the opportunity that you want to put yourself in position in. If I know that I want to become an executive, how do I get there? How do I build my resume to get there? How do I build my value to get there? What classes do I need to take? What new values do I need to learn? What new strategies and new lessons do I need to learn in order to build the gap and to close the gap so that I can be prepared for my next executive role? So before interviews, always make sure that you're studying different companies. I love to look at different companies. I love to look at one of my favorite shows is Shark Tank. Why do I like to see Shark Tank? Because Shark Tank, they're always trying to get equity and people are always giving pitches about business. And then the most important part for me that I love to see an entrepreneur talk through their numbers. Because the same numbers an entrepreneur talk to in terms of trying to get investors to invest in them are the same exact numbers that big private equities and big public companies are going through, because you have to know the numbers and you have to know your business. They ask them, well, how many competition do you have? How much are your margin shares? How much did you invest personally? How are you full-time in this? Well, do you have a patent? All of these things, get yourself involved in understanding the terminology so that when you have interviews, you can talk the same terminology as executives and you understand the company history. You know their revenue gains, you know their losses, you know their gaps. You understand these things so deeply. Put yourself in a position to start studying the companies like you have the interview already. And when you set up the interview, you can speak like you've been a part of the company for many years. Next thing is understand their problems and then also think in terms of how do I solve and become the solution. When I have this interview, I already put myself in position not to talk about and spend majority of the time talking about what I've done in the past, but the experience I have in the past. How do I become a solution for the companies now so that when they see me, they know that I've took the time to put these 5 things in place to make sure that I'm not just interviewing, I'm looking at opportunities. I'm not just complaining about the company, I'm building value about what I've gained with the company. I'm not just taking this emotionally and I'm taking it personal. I understand this business. So now when I go into an interview, I'm not saying I was laid off. I'm saying that I was restructured or there was a change in the strategy. There was new leadership. Those words speak volume in terms of your business acumen, and executives will look at you and say, these are the type of leaders that we want to bring into our company, because not only were they laid off, but this was a person that was involved in something that did not depend on their performance. It was just a business decision. This is a person we want to bring to our business because not only were they a part of layoff, but they know how to build themselves in the middle of something that can be so stressful, and they came back stronger in the end. So this is the key I want you to understand. A layoff is not a setback. It's a moment to reposition yourself. The people who win are the ones who move with clarity, confidence, and strategy. And if you approach it the right way, listen to this, your next role can be bigger than your last. I'm going to say this again. If you approach it the right way, your next role can be bigger than your last in terms of your salary, in terms of your exposure, in terms of your projects, in terms of the opportunity, and in terms of the biggest wave where the industry is going from a business perspective. My name is Adrian Singleton. Thank you for joining me for Beyond Lean.